Hey there folks, this is Josh, Stoney Ridge Farmer. Welcome back to the farm. Today we're going to be having a blast. We're going to get the skid loader out and we're going to try out a new implement. It's called the Mini Clip. Now you probably saw the video last week. If you didn't see the video, I'll post a link to it at the end of this video, where we visited the factory in Missouri where they build these machines. So what we're going to do is grab the skid loader right here. We're going to back it out. We got our new tracks on there. Super duper happy with that. We're going to go over on the other side of the farm and we're going to start clipping trees that are growing, encroaching into the edge of our field. So come along today as we have a little bit of fun playing with the new tractor implement and getting some work done here on the farm. All right? Woo! Stoney Ridge Farm, Stoney Ridge, Stoney Ridge Farm. Woo! All right. Oh yeah. Guys, I want to apologize about the wind. It's a little bit breezy today, so you might get a little bit of wind noise. We're going to hook up, so we just dropped the bucket, the tooth bucket off of the skid loader. And this is the grouser tracks that we just put on this thing, man. Holy cow, it just transformed it into a total different machine. So over here is the Mini Clip sitting beside our batwing that needs attention. We'll be on that pretty soon too. The weather's getting nice. We can get out here and do some work now. So this is the Mini Clip. We'll get a whole lot more detail on this, but I'm gonna get hooked up to it right now. We're gonna go down and refuel the skid steer. This is the Mini Clip. The Mini Clip is basically a tree trimmer that can reach way up in the air and clip tree limbs off for you, so you don't have to use a chainsaw or a pole saw. This thing is a very capable little machine. I used it for about 20 minutes the other day and I put the wrong couplers on. So they popped right off and I just got bathed in hydraulic fluid. Lesson learned. So we got the right couplers. We're gonna install those real quick. Basically what this thing does is just a jaw right here and it clips the tree. There's little grabbers right here and that snips the tree off. So for cutting limbs and cutting trees along fence lines and clearing land, it's an indispensable unit. You can get this right down next to the ground. Again, you'll get to see it in action. It rotates. In other words, the head rotates this way and that way, and this also telescopes. So I think the reach is somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 feet, really high up, and it'll cut up to quote unquote a 7-inch branch, but we've already seen that it'll cut a whole lot more than 7 inches in my opinion, but factory recommends 7 inches. So let's get our appropriate connectors hooked up to it. I bought this originally to go on our John Deere 5065 tractor, then we bought the skid loader, so we needed to change out the couplers. Here's the educational part of this video. So couplers, this is a flat-faced coupler right here, and this is what goes on a skid steer, okay? What would go on a tractor, standard tractor, is this style coupler. Let me pull it out of the bag real quick so you guys can see. And we'll compare the two. I ordered it with the wrong set of couplers for a skid steer because we're going to use it on the tractor. So instead of having this with the little nipple on the end, we have a flat face. This is tractor, this is skid steer. This is pipe threads. So there's a little bit of education to be had here. So many people in the industry don't know the difference in the types of couplers here and the types of thread. So this is a pipe thread. These couplers do not run on a pipe thread. In other words, they're called an O-ring thread. An O-ring type thread is not a tapered thread. A pipe thread is a tapered thread. These are O-ring type. And what I did was I bought the flat-faced pipe fitting type instead of the O-ring type. And right here in this box, I've got some of the O-ring type. And this is an elbow type fitting right here. So we're gonna pull these off and replace them. But know that if you go to buy couplers for your tractor, there's so many different options out there, and oftentimes the retailer has no idea what each one is. So I went to CarQuest, and I'm gonna call CarQuest out because I went in there, that's where I get my hydraulic lines built most of the time. I went in there and they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out what I needed, and I needed the O-ring type connector, not the tapered thread type connector. So when I put the tapered thread connector onto the O-ring connection, it tightened down, it did good until I got under pressure, and then it blew it off and drenched me in hydraulic fluid and drenched the front of the machine in hydraulic fluid. And that was probably, I don't know, an ounce of hydraulic fluid, but it seemed like 5 gallons when you're wearing it on your face. I was spitting it everywhere. It was pretty funny. So it was pretty funny. So we're gonna remove these old guys and put the new guys on. I just loosely attached this guy. So this guy's going back to Tractor Supply where we bought him. And that was the only option that I had at Tractor Supply. And here's our new coupler. And again, this is a non-tapered thread. This is for O-ring. So an O-ring fits flat against this guy right here. We'll just screw them right into place. You can see the O-ring is right on there. There's a little black O-ring. All right, that one's the male. And this one, this flat face connector, is going to be the female. You slip that back and it pops right into place. I'm using an adjustable wrench that has a vice grip built into it. Guys, if you don't have one of these in your toolbox, I'll post a link down in the video description. That thing is super duper handy. It keeps your adjustable wrench from slipping off of stuff like this when we tighten it down really, really tight. We got a little hydraulic fluid going on. That's why I've got gloves on. I knew I would get a little hydraulic fluid on me. Okay, we'll get a rag and we'll wipe these off real quick and tighten them down. Here's where the vice grip pliers come in handy. So we'll snug them down on here nice and tight, and then we'll pop our vice grip on and it'll hold in place. We'll get a larger adjustable wrench and we'll snug everything down. Okay. All right. There we go. Move on to the next one. There we go. Cool. About 3 minutes is how long it took to swap these guys out. Now we'll put in our quick couplers. Nice. Love it when they go in smooth like that. There we go. Sometimes these can be a real pain in the butt. So this is called the telescoping mini clip because this extends, the clip extends. You can see right here. So we pull a pin out and we can extend our clip way on out here. So we're gonna bring it on out probably to the first section here. There we go. And we'll slide our pin back in. It helps if this is angled down just a little bit. So we're telescoped out about 1 foot from the way it comes from the factory, but I think I can extend it up to about 3 feet. This is the clip, and it rotates hydraulically and clips hydraulically. We're going to clip a whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to try out some limbs, some high limbs. We're going to cut trees off at the ground. And at the end of the video, we're going to try and clip off a fence post. In case you guys are using a machine like this to clear an old fence line. So you think about it, a lot of old fence lines have little cedar trees and hedge trees and stuff like that that grow up in the fence line. If you're cleaning up an old fence, this is the machine for you because it goes right through there and clips where you can't use a forestry mulcher to do that job. Forestry mulcher would just get all tangled up in all the old barbed wire and stuff. So this will just snip it right off. Cool. This is off-road diesel. All right, we're on the other side of the farm here. This is probably 10 minutes from the house, maybe 3/4 of a mile, something like that. Max speed on this skid loader is about 8 miles per hour. So we're cruising on over. You guys can see the grouser tracks on there. I know that they need to be tightened up a little bit, so don't hold it against me. I know they need to be tightened up. We've got new tires on the way for this machine, so there's no use in tightening those tracks up. So I'm pulling up here to my first tree, and again, I've probably got about 20 minutes behind the wheel with this machine. After working it for about a day, I think you get really proficient at picking up branches that you've cut, moving them to the side, and you can basically clear the edges of fields, no problem with this machine. So once in a while you'll get in a position like this where you've got a leaner and you need that leaner to be out of the way. So we clipped the end off the leaner and then we went back in and got the big tree. And this tree right here is probably about 6 inches around, something like that, maybe 4. Not a very big. It's a river birch, and this entire field that's behind us was covered in river birch trees prior to us clearing it about 2.5 years, maybe 3 years ago. This is a little poplar tree. Again, these trees are encroaching on the edge of the field, and what will happen is the limbs will hit you in the face as you're going around mowing. So you see all the debris back here in the background. If you had a farm hand, they could be tossing that stuff in the woods, or you could pile it up and burn it, or you could build rabbit habitats, so-called rabbitats, on your farm if you wanted to. I'm going to reach up here. This is about a 7-inch little poplar tree right here growing out of the embankment. And it just snips it right off, no problem. So we got down and clipped it at the bottom, but Mrs. Stoney Ridge was running the camera. She's a little fearful of getting hurt. That's another one of those river birch trees. And those things grow fast. They will take a field over in a heartbeat around here in North Carolina. So you can see we can clip down right next to the ground. In other words, you can mow right over top of this. You don't have to worry about hitting stumps or puncturing tractor tires with little stobs sticking up, or utility vehicle tires, or puncturing CV boots on a utility vehicle, which I've done a lot here on the farm. I've replaced CV boots probably 4 times on our John Deere Gator. So cruising through here, my wife just called the dog because the dog was a little bit close. That's one of the dangers of having your dog around. That's about an 8-inch pine tree, 7 or 8-inch pine tree, and that's about the extent of what this machine is supposed to do. Now we're going to do some things we probably shouldn't do, and this is not recommended by the manufacturer. But we went over to the edge of the creek here just a little bit, and these are overhanging limbs that hang out over the field that are going to pose a danger to our fence line when we start building our fence right here. So that is a big tree. That is probably 10 inches right there, and it just plowed right through it. Now I wanted to showcase how once a tree like that gets on the ground, you can clip it up, and then you can actually use the jaw there to push it to the edge of the woods. In other words, to get it out of the field. You can actually use the jaw to get it out of the field. Or you could clip it up in a bunch of little bitty pieces and someone could pick it up. Or you could pick it up with a grapple later on. That's what my plan is, to come back down here later on and use the grapple. And I'll pull on up here, and I think I clipped this guy again. It takes some time to learn this piece of machinery right here, so just so you know, it takes a little bit of time. I probably only have about 2 hours on the skid loader itself here on our farm, so we just bought the skid loader. And we're just showing you how you don't have to get off the machine in order to push this stuff to the woods. And you can see how jabbing it in the dirt's not very recommended, but it's robust enough to where it won't hurt it if you do get a little dirt on it. And you can see I've got a little dirt on it for sure. This one is pushing the limit of what I'm supposed to do. I shouldn't be cutting this tree, so don't do what I do what I say. You don't want to cut a tree this big with this machine, but I just thought for giggles I'd give it a shot. So it's definitely not recommended by the manufacturer. That's a little bit too big of a tree. But you can see it took it pretty good. And you can see that bar right on the front of the machine, on the front of the attachment there. That's to keep limbs from falling over on top of you and falling into the cab. Now we'll got that big tree, we'll clip it into a couple pieces and we'll get it out of the field. This is a really fun machine to work. I had a great time. Just had a blast running this machine. I tell Mrs. Stoney Ridge to back up here because she needed to back up. She was just standing there, and I'm just going to pick it up and push it to the edge of the woods. I think this is probably the first one that I pushed to the edge of the woods with her running the camera. Awesome machine. Awesome piece of machinery. I'll let you guys watch it at work for just a little bit longer, and then we'll talk about it at the end of the video. Had my backup cameraman today, guys. Well, so Mrs. Stoney Ridge approves. You like that thing?
It's awesome.
Probably did in about 20 minutes, or probably did about 2 hours worth of work with this tree clipper. And we tried it on some really big stuff. Hopefully we got that shot. Mrs. Stoney Ridge was a little bit nervous about being over there. Yep. So totally impressed. This thing is a beast. Even the tip right here. So even just the tip, not the sharp part, was cutting the trees down. Did a great job, guys. So thanks a lot for joining me here on the Stoney Ridge. The end of the video. I don't want to cut a fence post. I think we're going to go try and pull a fence post out of the ground with it instead of cutting a fence post. We don't want to waste a fence post. We know if it'll cut stuff, I mean, holy cow, it cut stuff well over 7 inches. I think we're probably in the 11-inch range on some of those big trees that we dropped over by the creek. So good stuff. Those were weed trees. We call them weed trees or shoemate trees. Or Virginia palm is what it's also called. Those are just garbage trees. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this. We'll show this critter. This again is from Precision Manufacturing. We shot a video there last week in the factory and we bought this tree clipper. It was already here at the house, but we wanted to go through the factory and show you guys how they were made first. So be sure you pound that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be playing with this thing quite a few more times here on the farm, guys. Thanks a lot. See you next time.
Well, come on down to the Stoney Ridge. Bring your wife and bring your kids. We're living life here in the sweet